truth, and life. Here is the Brother Leon Show. You better recognize.
What's going on, listeners? This is your boy, Brother Leon, and you are tuning into another episode of the Brother Leon Show. So today, guys, we have returning on the show, Nisa Harper. As you guys know, we are in this whole relationship segment. So, hey, we got to hear from the activist, the author, the mother, Nisa Harper, so that we can get her view on relationships. So, guys, what I'm going to be doing in these next series of relationships is that we're going to talk about perspective. I'm going to be giving questions that are directed at everyday situations and some situations that we see in some relationships. Because the one thing that I want is an understanding. And I'm definitely doing this as an experiment to see, is this the way that black women see men, see our black men? Because at the end of the day, we have to get our houses together. We have to have an understanding. We have to be healed. God has to do some healing, some deliverance. But we need to have these hard conversations that's going to bring us into truth. So today, we definitely going to go in. And these questions are going to be hard. These questions are going to be things that some of us and a lot of us have encountered. I've encountered some of these questions. And so we got to begin to see our perspective on one another. So with that, guys, I'm going to bring you Nisa Harper.
Hello?
Hey, good morning. How you doing, Miss Harper?
Hello, how are you, Leon?
Hey, I'm real good. I was telling the listeners, I'm like, man, this is going to be one of them episodes today.
Yeah, because we had a great conversation the last time I talked to you on the other podcast.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, today, we going to get in people's cabinets this morning.
Okay, starting with our own, okay.
Okay, so let me just start off, just in case people, they didn't listen to the last episode.
Okay.
Who are you?
Okay. I would answer it like this. I know last time I said who I was without any worldly titles. And this time I think I would shorten it up. And I would say that I'm here to teach. I'm here to preach. And I'm here to help others find their purpose as I continue my journey in this life. But as far as, I would say, successes or things that people consider success or accomplishments, I am a mom of four. I'm an auntie to many. I am an author, a published author. I write books, I publish books. I write all day long. And when I say that, it could be a grocery list. But I'm always writing, always have wrote. I love to sing. I'm very creative. I'm a social worker, so I have at least 17 years, at least, in my field, and usually was a lead case manager. I'm also an advocate. I've done activism. I've had a lot of experiences. I don't want to put it all in there. Okay. But again, it has to deal with my purpose and then teaching others how to create the space for their purpose to flourish. That's me.
Okay. All right. Well, let me ask you this. How have relationships formed your creativity?
Wait, say it one more time, Leon. I couldn't hear you. Say it again.
My first question is, how have relationships formed your creativity?
That's a great question. So anything that I've ever... Okay, so let me define first. When you had asked me about relationships just now, I'm going to be speaking of the standpoint. It could be a relationship with my parents or lack thereof. It could be extended relatives. It could be my siblings. It could be intimate, or it could be my children. Relationships actually are the basis for all of my books. And three of my children also have books. And all of those, except for one, are about their relationship. So I define it like this. At this age, I define it like this. Every relationship you have with everyone else, even if it's a stranger that you're meeting on the bus or, at the move, saying hi, every relationship you have with everyone else starts with the relationship you have with yourself. How you feel about yourself will project onto every children, parents, coworkers, business associates, strangers will project onto how you relate to other people. So all of my books are based around it. They're all self-help books, and it's really about, again, my journey and my purpose. And so therefore, I mainly use what I've learned, teach, preach, pass it on. So that's anything. Teach, preach, pass it on. So that's how it's formed. And when of course, I interact with other people. So I can absorb that energy also. It can have me create something, even a slogan, a hashtag based around what I just witnessed or what I just felt. Or if I do poetry, it may not be about my life. It may be about something else I just witnessed or witnessed in the past. But it always has to deal with relationships with all of us.
I like that. I definitely like that. So let me ask you this, because we're going to be talking about men and women today. So my question is, so what is your opinion on what is a good man? And how can women learn how to respect their men and also their sons' manhood? Because, a lot of men, their thing is, well, girl, you just don't respect me. So, I just want to hear from a woman's perspective, what is a good man? Because a lot of women, ain't no good men out here. All men are dogs. These niggas ain't shit. I mean,
that's real.
And this is the stuff that we hear. So I want to hear from a woman, a conscious woman like yourself.
Okay. So if you were talking to me 20 years ago, my answer to that would have been like, echoing you. All men are dogs. Mm-hmm. Even though consciously I had my grandfather, I had uncles, was never violated, never felt weird, because I know a lot of females have had some situations, never ever had that for me. I had uncles, big cousins, father figures. But 20 years ago, what I said repeatedly in my circle of 20-some-year-old girlfriends, we were in college, and we had been in terrible relationships. And but we loved them. And if you would have asked us the same question, the chorus would have echoed, and we weren't copying each other in our words, but that was the perspective. All men are dogs, and niggas ain't F. Girl, you know how it is. So then what happens when you had a conversation, when that is your belief set? You don't really sit there and think, well, wait a minute, my grandfather always loved me. My uncles always told me I was great. You're not thinking that. You're thinking the men you dated. So what happens is, you say, girl, let me tell you about my latest story. And then your next girlfriend, who's also in a terrible relationship says, let me tell you about mine. And hers probably sound worse than yours, and the third person, girlfriend who talk, hers sound worse than all of ours. So what you're doing is, what do we talk about all the time in life now, 20 years after? We talk about the people that you're around in any space. Your lives are going to reflect each other in some parts. That's why you all are around each other. You have a commonality. So what we didn't talk about, Leon, then, but we're older now, was, wait a minute, we weren't that, and we were considered deep. Like, we were from the D.C. area, we were in North Carolina in college, so we were considered the deep one. So, if you really, what we didn't talk about, and that didn't have any women around us saying, well, ladies, okay, let's go with that. Ladies, where did you all learn about relationships from? Hey, ladies, what did you witness your moms and your aunties and your grandmas? What did they tell you about relationships, and what did you see them go through that has you at this conclusion? See, then it would have gone a little deeper. Yeah. But we were our own base. We did not, at that time, have mentors of we definitely had positive women saying, go for your career, find love later, you're smart. We had women doing that, but we did not. Unlike this day and age, we did not have women sitting around with us in a circle saying, well, baby, let's talk about it. Where does that come from? Has anyone harmed you before? Has anyone, so to get to your question, in my opinion, knowing I'm just one woman, what is a good man? Nisa today would say a good man is someone who is in touch with himself. He has to be in touch with who he is, the good parts of him, the ugly parts, the bad parts. And he has to be in touch with a higher source outside of himself. If he wants to call him Jesus, okay. If he wants to call him Allah, okay. But it has to be a positive higher source outside of himself. Because if we look up, we go up. You know what I mean? Even everything is vertical. So you have to know you come from something higher, because if you don't know that, and I'm not talking about, hey, good morning, oh, be blessed. Okay, okay. Be blessed, just be blessed. That's not necessarily that you know that you come from something greater than you. Because if you know you come from something greater than you, once you really ingest that in your spirit, like in your soul, you'll be like, wait, if I'm from this, I'm everything. So I don't really want to be in the negative anymore, because I know what I come from, my father, however you define it. So I would say a good man first has to know himself, and that's a journey. He has to want to know himself. He has to want to know what makes him mad. He has to want to know, what did he get mad at as a child that he may still be carrying. He has to want to know, what do I strive to do in his life? Even if he don't know the answer, he has to ask himself these things. And so a good man, then everything else, remember I said the relationship I've realized now flows from myself outward. So everything will flow from there. The type of job he has. It doesn't matter if he works at McDonald's. Is his attitude great at McDonald's? It doesn't matter if he works at Target. Is his attitude great? Does he show up? Does he treat his coworkers and the people who come in with respect? Everything's going to flow from him. So a good man is at the top tier. He knows who he is, and he knows there is a positive higher source than him that he must lean into, and then everything else can flow down. I know the other question is there, but I didn't know if you wanted to elaborate or talk before I go to how can women learn how to respect.
No, just keep on flowing, because I think what I'll take and do is once you answer it, then I'll give my little take on it as well.
Okay.
So let me just ask you the second part. How can women learn how to respect their men and their sons' manhood?
Okay. How can women learn? So again, I would say, present day Nisa, not my younger stuff, I would say what we've seen growing up will dictate how we operate and what our patterns are when we're talking to men and young men. Now, if there's some negative patterns in there, we will repeat that unless we realize, wait a minute, I don't want to continue that pattern. I don't want to continue talking to my son like that. Wait, I don't want to continue to talk to how I heard my mother talk to my brother. But that doesn't happen unless you realize first that wait a minute, that wasn't so positive. Let me look at it. Am I doing the same thing? So you can't. You would learn to respect men and your sons, if you have sons, based on what you saw growing up, and then as you're older, choosing to respect yourself first. So that's going to dictate how you talk to different men. And what I've had to learn, what my experience is, every male is not coming at you respectfully. And girls of all colors learn that at a very early age. Girl, don't go outside with those shorts on. She could be 10.
Yeah.
The men are looking at you. So she's learning subconsciously, oh, wait, my body's a bad thing. Men are going to... That's what's being taught when someone says, at 10, don't wear that. They're going to look at you. Not necessarily, let me go check the dudes. You telling the female, cover your body. Not cover your body because it's sacred. Cover your body because there's something wrong. Men are gonna want to do something back. Cover it.
Yeah, yeah.
So women start to take this in, and so here's what happens. By the time this starts when we're like 10. So by the time we 15, 16, dating, if there's no stable father figure in the home, we left our own devices or whatever we see in mommy or aunties do or whatever. We just figuring out on our own in our circle of young-minded girlfriends who also, for the most part, it's going to be one or two that got their daddy around for sure. But for the most part, your girlfriend's fathers aren't around either. There's men around, they just not in y'all's homes. So what are you doing? You're sitting around. So what do you say? The young ladies, I'm not saying it to you, the young ladies, we say when we're younger, and I came up in the hip-hop era like you, the rap era, we say, niggas ain't us. Girl, I know. So when we get older, we learn to, I treat men with respect that are respectful. If men are disrespectful, then it's another problem for me. Not if I don't know them, because I don't feel an attachment. Like I don't know them. Even online, you can just block them.
Yeah.
But my experience has been, I've been in many meetings where I've been called to the table because of either the advocacy or activism, and a lot of times, people think if they don't see it on social media that it's not happening. That because you didn't put a picture up or whatever, then maybe it's not happening. But I've been called to meetings because I have a lot of, I would say, bold energy that a lot of men respect and relate to. So it's always placed me around a lot of guys, platonic, respectful, just guys. And so I've been called in meetings, just an example, how do you talk to men? How do you, how can women learn how to respect their men and sons? So that would apply to men, even in business. I've been called in meetings where I'm the only female at the table. And what I've had happen, because of the work that I'm talking about, the African-American men, community work, things like that, with grants and stuff. What I've had happen more than one time is some of the men in the room are very respectful and don't care that you're a female, that you're adding your opinion and that you're adding, value to the conversation. But the other half, they want to interrupt you. They're looking at you funny. And I'm not talking about lustful. When you're coming in, when you say something, so there's a lot of disrespect going on with Black women and girls. That's number one.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
So what happens is when we're not censored, when we're not taking our time for ourselves, I'm talking about women, Black women now, I'm talking about Black women in particular. What happens is we get a build up on the inside. We get a build up. And nobody says, hey, woman of 40, woman of 30, tell me about your experiences of why you're saying the man ain't this, ain't shit. And tell me about what you saw growing up. Tell me what you experienced at work today. And a lot of times, we're talking about men that look like us. So women can then come off very hard. And then guess what? Remember you and I talked about this the last time. So then if you're experiencing disrespect, when y'all are at the cookout in relationships, right?
Yeah.
And he says, baby, could you fix my plate? I ain't fixing your plate. Get up and fix your own plate.
Yeah.
And look, you the cousin, you laughing just like that. You like, oh boy, you better fix it. So you right. So it's funny. Then the women are like, girl. The older aunties, that's why I tell him this is 2020. We don't fix plates over here.
Yeah.
So I'm not judging this, but what happened is I'm not judging it, saying right or wrong, but see, looking a little deeper, in order for her to say something like that publicly, you already know at home stuff ain't straight.
Yeah, exactly.
So disrespect towards men, a lot of times is internal buildup from Black women being disrespected since we were young ladies by men who look like us. By everybody says unity in the community. I grew up in the Pan-African community, and so everybody says that. Some men show it, absolutely. There's no question about that. But so many don't. And so therefore, now you got a build up. The woman has a build up. So when she's walking down the street, I'm mean mugging.
Yeah.
Not even, I don't even have to think about it at 15. Like, oh, here they go. And when a guy says hi, a lot of times he's not saying, hey, can I get your number? Hey, chocolate.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You 15.
Yeah.
So then it becomes a buildup of where you have the young, don't speak to him, because you're thinking it's something negative coming along with the speaking.
Yeah. Yeah.
So again, most women, Black women, have grown up with uncles and neighborhood guys and grandfather. Even his daddy wasn't around. Grandfathers who was like, "Hey, baby girl, I got $1 for you. Tell me about your grades, and you gonna be everything." Even our uncles, my uncles, I would say this. Worry about relationships later. My grandfather told me. My grandfather's a serious guy. Told me when I was like 15, 16, 14, 15.
Yeah.
I lived with them for a year. My grandparents, my mother's parents. He told me, and he was very strict, but I thrived in that environment. I needed that kind of discipline and routine. I was never a wild child, but my home life, my mom was a single mom for the most part. And so things would go up and down, lights off, lights on. She always worked, social worker also, but she couldn't sustain 4 kids by herself. So there was a lot of inconsistency while she went to work every day, and she was part of the church community. So when I went to my grandparents for that year, I thrived because everything was consistent, and I personally needed that. The one thing that my grandfather didn't play with, and they used to tick me off at 14, 15.
Yeah.
First of all, dating wasn't even an option. So let's take that off the table. I had to go to church every Sunday. I loved it. And mind you, we were Muslims. So I'm just saying, he said something very clear to me that I'll never forget. He said to me one time, I wanted to go to a football game. And again, I wasn't wild. So nobody was like, oh my God, we don't know if Nisa's going to come home. It wasn't that. He said to me, I went to go to the local football game with all the little cute local guys in Tappahannock, Virginia. And so it was a small town. I went to Chicago. He was like, no. He would never let me go to the local, because I went to a private school, all girls private school that year. Mm-hmm. And so he would never let me go. And number one, I was at an all girls private school with 4 Black girls. My cousin was one. There were no guys there. And even if it was let's just say it would have happened to be mixed Leon, it wouldn't have been cool Black guys from the town. So I just wanted to go to where like regular people were, and I couldn't go. He never let me go. And he said, as I finally get to it, he said, you study, you go to school, boys will come later. You study, you go to school, boys will come later. And I'm in my mind, because we done suck our teeth at our grandparents. So I'm in my mind, I was thinking, you're just old. I mean, later.
Yeah.
But the cute boys were right across the street. I couldn't even, let me tell you something. If I sat on my grandparents' porch, again, I wasn't wearing short stuff. I was never considered fat. Like, my grandfather would come sit on the porch. But I understand what he was doing now. But back then, it was kind of like, oh my God. Yeah. And so I did have, and most women, Black women, have had positive men around. But when you're talking about disrespect and you're talking about it's no good niggas, what you're really witnessing for anybody who's listening is, oh, wait a minute, let me have some compassion. That Black woman has a buildup of negative experiences. Yeah. Let me, as opposed to being on the defense, we good. We look at what we do, and we're put down a lot. And this is, oh, wait a minute, she's got to build up. Yeah. That's so. We learn what's around. To answer your question, we learn what's around us, and then we make choices. And then when we start getting on a healing journey and figuring out our purpose, we start to really break down. Why do I think this? Or where did this come from? Why do I act like this?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's how I would answer, that one.
Okay, because I think the one thing, you hit the nail on the head when you started talking about, what's being spoken in the home, because
Mm.
I believe that there are some women, their whole motivation in even raising daughters is fear, because it's like, don't wear that outside. You can't trust men around your girls. And I'm like, I get where that comes from, but it's almost as if you're saying that, you need men, but you can't trust men because they might do this, they might do that, da 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 da. And it's kind of crazy, because it's like, even when you gave the scenario of the picnic, the thing is that, like, where'd y'all get that from? Because that probably, your grandmother or your great grandmother was probably fixing her husband's plate.
Oh, we saw her fix it.
Yeah.
Let me tell you how I used to feel, though. When I was 14, so my grandmother was pretty progressive, and the women she was around, and the women in my mom's side of the family, let me clarify that, because my dad was not around, and his family was actually on the West Coast, and his family wasn't around. So let me say this. My grandmother was an entrepreneur. She was a teacher for 40 plus years, English teacher, and she had her own business with other women. She went to church every Sunday. She was the Eastern Star. I want to paint a picture of a progressive woman. My grandfather never yelled at my grandmother. If he did, I was never around, and I spent every summer with her. So he had a very, as a matter of fact, I never saw him yell. Maybe he didn't do it around me, but he had a very, what I learned from him about how men carry themselves. I'm a secure man. When my grandfather walked in the room, a melanated guy, always liking something nice, he didn't have to yell because he had a presence. So look, my grandmother used to cook all the time. My grandfather could cook too. I remember when I lived with them with that year, I remember thinking, I guess this is a little feminist in me at that age. I remember thinking, I would have never expressed it. Why is she always cooking? Now, he cleaned too. He wasn't messy. He didn't leave his clothes on. But I couldn't understand these roles at that time. I remember thinking, why is she always the one cooking? She would cook sometimes on Sunday.
Yeah.
If she, but he did this too. But my mind was very focused on, mind you, I'm coming from a single mom home. But I had stepdads, but they weren't always consistently there. And so I remember thinking, like, why is she always cooking? Look at that. That stood out to me because, what'd you just say? You said we saw them do that. But if you don't really understand, especially as a young girl or a young lady in your 20s, that we all have roles to play. If you don't understand that, you might think you're being, let's get to the S word, submissive. And at 14 and 15, that stood out to me. It didn't stand out to me at that time that she was an entrepreneur, that she never had to defend herself in front of him. It never stood out to me then that they had this calm relationship and that we did family stuff together. What stood out to me, coming from the city, was like, why's she doing that? And I mean, literally, I'm not about to sit here and act like all relationships are perfect from back in the day. But for my grandparents or other relatives we had around us, that was a no-no. You were not going to see that. I know certain people did. If it was ever going on, it went on in the barn somewhere. And I mean across the board for my mother's family. Mm-hmm. You weren't going to see that. You weren't going to see the ladies getting drunk at events. Didn't happen. It was like one or two cousins that would drink beer, and it was considered like, oh, taboo.
Oh, yeah.
But so when you say we saw our grandmothers and great grandmothers do that, what a guy may not know unless he asks is, how did you feel about when you saw your grandma fixing? How did you feel about it?
Yeah.
Going a little deeper with that woman as to, she may have seen it, but did you ask her how she felt about it? Did you ask her, did she see herself like that? Mm-hmm. Did you ask her, what does she think? Not you specifically. What does she think about fixing the plate? And then if more men ask women deeper questions, first of all, she might cry. She might go, if they ask deeper questions beyond the anger that we display, and we do display it, they're going to find out there's a little girl there. There's a little girl there, and she's going to show you in her response how much she's still wounded. First of all, she's already showing you by catching the attitude when you are asking her to fix her plate. That means at home, she's telling you. That's her way of telling you. At home, when no one's looking, she does not feel respected, so she is not going to respect you.
Yeah.
She might stay with you, and I talked about this last time. She might stay with you for years. Y'all might show up to events together. Oh, selfie time. Oh, they're at the wedding together. Look, they've been together for 12 years. But behind closed doors, if a woman doesn't respect you, you're going to know it.
Yeah, it comes out in the little stuff. It comes out in the little stuff. And I think a lot of times people, they forget about just observing some of the little things because it always has to be something big. It don't necessarily have to be big. It can be small but be consistent. And that's the thing that a lot of people don't look at. You got to look at the consistency of it. Is this happening every day? Every time, and I tell people, you can tell if somebody really love you sometimes just by the way they grocery shop.
Yeah.
Seriously, because if you've been with a person and they know that they know,
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how come every time you go shopping, you always buy the stuff you like? How come you don't never buy something that I like?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I mean, over time, it's like, okay, here it is, you washing clothes and you picking up their stuff, but then they don't want to touch your stuff when it's time. I mean, it's just little stuff. And I mean, even, the whole thing when it comes down to fixing a person's plate, you know what I mean? And it's and like I tell people, it's the little foxes that spoil the vine because it's one of those type of things as if you don't start observing it. And this is why I say there's a difference between being woke and being aware. Because we got a lot of woke people, but they're not aware. They're not present. And the one thing that we have to do, even in our relationships, you have to be aware. You have to be present because if you're not, people like we said, they could be with you for years.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can be loyal for what you bring to the table, but there's no love there. It's just the fact of you helping me out. I like that. I'm loyal to the fact that you're helping my well-being. Yeah. And as much use as I can get out of you, that's where my loyalty is. Until I can't get nothing out of you, then soon as that wears out, then I'm out.
I'm out. And our time is up. Time's up. Yeah. That would be so okay. So going back on what you just said, what would you, for anyone who's listening, what would you tell people? What is the difference between someone who's aware and someone who's woke?
Well, I look at it like this: woke, meaning basically you are observant. I would say being aware is not only are you observant, but you're looking at the details. You're looking at, you're trying to view what's not being shown. Okay. You're trying to see the unseen. You're trying to hear what's not being heard. You know what I mean? You're listening for what's not being spoken. Because a lot of times, I get the whole cliche. Like people say, "Oh yeah, yo man, you need to be woke when it comes to President Trump's plan for black people." I'm like, Negro, that thing is only a page and a half. It ain't nothing in there. Right. There ain't nothing in there for black people specifically.
Right, I understand. Yeah.
He's the most pro-black president ever. What black president has he put on the bench? Oh, he got black people out of jail. Obama ain't do nothing.
I know what you're saying.
He gave you Affordable Care Act, but this is what you hear from these woke niggas.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I'm like, you're not even aware. And the fact that they calling it a platinum plan, that's an insult to black people alone. You might as well call it the grape drink plan, the grape juice plan. You might as well call it chicken and watermelon. Oh, hey nigga, I got the hot sauce plan. Oh, I know you like that Texas plan.
Not the hot sauce plan.
You know what I mean?
The Kool-Aid plan. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah.
I'm like, because it's almost like you saying, that, oh yeah, I got something shiny for black people.
Mm.
Really?
But you know that. Oh, go ahead.
And so that's the reason why I kind of had a problem with Ice Cube. I'm like, dude, I ain't got no problem with you meeting, but I'm like, ain't no way in the world I would take my stuff and do a comparison. And this is what they're calling it for my community. You calling it a platinum plan for my man? No, I'm not meeting with you until you change that name, number one.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it's an insult. You know, platinum plan? You know, and the crazy thing is that, you know, looking at the administration, the President Trump's administration, you know, my question is, if you wanted to create something for black people, for the black community, why is it that you have a congressional black caucus, you won't even hear from them?
Yeah, but a lot of them didn't meet with, a lot of different other presidents also didn't meet with the CBC. And so, like, okay, so let's go back to the topic of relationships and what you're talking about, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was just
in order for,
I was saying, no, that's just my little side rabbit run.
No, I'm going back into it based on, no. It's we can flow with that. No.
Okay.
Based on relationships. And every relationship you have has to deal with how you see yourself. Then, why do you think, what's your opinion of why Q formed a relationship with Trump? What was his motive to form a relationship with Trump?
Well, I get the purpose behind it. I totally get that. I get the motivation. But,
what do you think it is?
But I believe that he wants to create something that will be specifically for black people, something that is going to, you know, okay, this is what we need. And I totally get it, because what he was saying was, you know, we got to hold both parties accountable so that we can get something. His view was coming from Dr. Claude Anderson's view. And I get that. And his thing is, you know, quid pro quo. If I'm saying it correctly. And so that means basically, okay, you're going to do something for me and I'm going to give you something.
Yeah, and relationship.
And I totally get that. But what we have seen, if you study the pattern that has been with this president and his administration, he will take a photo op with you. He will give you a little blurb, but there will never be anything. There will never be anything of substance. And this is why I got angry at a lot of these black pastors, because I'm like, you're saying that, okay, he's going to show us how to do business. Y'all niggas never came out of there with a plan.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But guess what the plan was? Guess what the plan may have been for those particular pastors? Guess what the plan may have been? The plan may have been to come up on their church and themselves. That, not that they're going to tell the public that, but that may have been the plan for those particular people. So they can give you something shiny, even the pastors and things like that. Yeah, but if we look in the details, if we look at the details of anything, what's in the details? What they always say, oh, the devil's in the details. What's in the details? But it still goes back to what you talked about, relationships. Because in order to get in the photo op with all the pastors smiling around Trump, there had to have been, for you to even get in the White House and be one of those particular pastors, because I'm sure it was 100 other black people trying to get in, so pastors trying to get in. So the ones around him had some type of relationship. I'm not talking right, wrong with him. Everything we do is going to flow off of relationships.
Yeah. Relationships even access.
Give you access depending on what you want access to. You know what I mean? I could say anything. Like Trump. I could say anything. But the details will always show anything. I could say, oh, yeah. I'm a nice person. I'm this, and that. But the majority of people may say, nah, behind closed doors, she's nasty. Oh, nah, she's rude. Yeah. Details, relations. Everything is going to Your relationship with yourself is going to project on everything else you do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's why some people rise, some people do not. It's not just everybody's got a talent, everybody's got gifts, but that's not going to propel you just because you got a talent. God didn't say, oh, just this one, just this. God said, oh, everybody, here you go, and you got a gift, and you got a gift, and you got. So the thing that really determines, no matter what we do in life, is going to be our relationship. Excuse me. When we cut some off, when we keep some, and how we are in those relationships. And that is it still goes back to how do we feel about ourselves.
Yeah. It goes back to perception.
Perception. And a lot of those pastors, I don't care that their skin is black. It doesn't matter. That's a perception they're black.
Yeah.
You could be black on the outside and your mentality could be straight European. So you identify everything. And again, I'm not talking about race, because that's surface. You can't pick what color you're born. You can't pick that yourself. But how you're raised and what you really think, that's what's going to determine your relationship. That's why you got white folks and Asian folks who be like, we align with Black Lives Movement. Matter of fact, they're the ones that's going to throw a Molotov cocktail through Macy's. They're the ones that's going to do that. So it's not about, oh, I was born with this color and therefore I'm automatically a racist. Nah, it's what relationship you have with yourself. Once you get a little older and you start to learn, you're going to decide what you want access to and what you don't want. Some of those white people who are in the Black lives and trying to help the best way they can, their parents can't stand them.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
Relatives, they can't stand them.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you got some white girls, white women. I mean, man, it's like, guess who's coming in dinner? And they got the biggest black dude, the darkest black dude.
And the thickest hair.
Yes. and the crazy thing is that every time they come around, her parents start turning red because of his blackness.
Absolutely. And goes back to what we're taught. If I was born white and I was in an all lily white town, and I was born to think I am superior because of my race. I was born only to see black people or Hispanic people only on TV or in a negative light when it wasn't TV. Then, of course, I'm going to think a certain thing until I get out in the world a little bit.
Yeah.
So of course I'm going to think that.
Yeah.
Because that's what I've grown up with. And then when I went to college in North Carolina, even though one of my best friends at the time, he was from Maryland, Fort Washington. And I remember him telling me, because I was telling him out in Alexandria, you go to school with like so many different ethnicities and races. So it's not a big deal if you have like, it's not all the way a big deal. It's just like, oh, okay, it's Alexandria. But he told me he grew up in Fort Washington, but I didn't meet him until college. He said, I think it was like one or two white people in his high school, something like that. And then I met people from North Carolina who had no white people in their high school. So then you have the opposite. If you're not growing up around different races and ethnicities and different, and you don't know that, what's the song? People are the same wherever you go based on their personalities first.
Yeah.
That's why when certain people come around, you be like, oh, that's just a cool white boy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But based on their personality, oh, that's just a cool white boy. Oh, she's just cool. You know what, girl? I'm surprised. She had more blacker than me. But what we're taught from both sides, don't trust this person because they're white, or a white person always going to do you wrong, or let's flip it. Them niggas, they done. From the white side, racist white side, those niggas, they don't want nothing out of life.
Yeah, that's what's been heard. I've even heard black people say the same thing.
Oh, black people repeat the same thing. Oh, Lord, we ain't even gonna talk about it. They repeat the same mantra that we was whipped for. You niggas don't want nothing. And repeat it proudly nowadays. But basically relationships and what you see growing up, male, female, however, you're going to repeat that unless you realize at some point, like, ooh, I don't want to repeat that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're not aware to what you're repeating that is negative, then you just keep doing it and we'll defend it if you're not aware.
Yeah.
But what do you have to be aware of? You have to be aware of yourself. You have to be aware of your own flaws, your own triggers, your own strengths, your own weaknesses.
Exactly.
So it still goes back to what you said, relationship with self.
Exactly. So,
and Ice Cube is coming in the chat right now. No, I'm just like,
but let me just say this. I think the one thing that, you know, you hit the nail on the head. You talked about awareness. And so I believe in order for us to really start having this change and us really to start seeing a person, we have to be aware. Because I look at it like this. You know, a lot of us, and I've said this before, we fall in love with the imagination of a person instead of the reality of a person. You know, and we got to get to the place where if we're going to have successful male-female relationships, we got to begin to be aware. And we have to be aware of the reality of where they are right now. Because I see so many black women fall in love with the potential of a man.
I used to do that.
I'm serious. They fall in love with the potential of the man. And the next thing you know, they putting on their superhero boots. I'm going to save this nigga. I'm going to shape him. I'm going to mold him. I'm going to create him into the potential that I see. And then when that shit don't work out, then... You know, not only is it time wasted, but not only are they angry at him, but then they angry at themselves.
Absolutely.
And then the thing is that next dude that comes along, he's catching hell because of what the last dude didn't do or did.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, I thoroughly believe that we got to begin to really start being aware to the present reality that is in front of us. Because you can love a person's potential all day long. They got to have some conviction and action behind that potential. And that's the God knows truth. Because if it's just potential, I'm like, okay, you got to look at that word potential. It could potentially be good or it could potentially be bad. It could be, it could potentially add to your life or it could potentially subtract from your life.
Right.
So, you know, it's like, I see it. It's good. He got some good potential. But if there's always a but, then it's like, nah, you know what? I ain't going to fool with that. Let me see something first. You know, let me see the proof in the pudding. And I see so many black women get disappointed. And then, and then the crazy thing is that in that disappointment, if they're raising sons, you know, a lot of times some of the language, oh, you're just like your father. Oh, I ain't raising no dogs in here. I'm like, hold up, he ain't a dog.
but so I have 3 sons and a daughter.
Yeah.
Onto that point, and I have also found myself using negative language that I've had to check myself repeatedly. Because one thing that's for certain, we all have patterns.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing for certain is we can change our pattern at any time.
Yeah.
But that takes work and it takes time. And the first part of that is being aware that you're using that language.
Yeah.
And how to, so if you go from the standpoint of what you speak into a child or an adult, it's planting the seed.
Yeah, exactly.
Like you said, positively, negatively, whatever. It's planting the seed.
Yeah.
So I have 3 sons, 3 different personalities. And like I mentioned in the first podcast, and like when I mentioned about my first book, that book is based around, at that point, 10 years ago, my relationships with my 2 different kids' dads and how I got to that point. So it goes into my childhood, somewhat of my childhood. So that was 10 years ago in that particular book. 3 sons, 3 different personalities. And I have found myself saying, even though it's not every day, and I used to say this to myself, well, it wasn't every day, so you're all right. Because I'll apologize. I've always believed in apologizing to children or to whoever if you feel as though, no, I was in error. We know when we're out of pocket. I believe we know when we're out of pocket. Here's the thing with me. I may still feel like, well, they deserve that. But I still know when I'm out of pocket and when I'm wrong, regardless. So therefore, that requires an apology from me. So I have found myself saying that. As a matter of fact, my because I allow them to speak very openly to me, always have. They would be like, why are you saying that about our dad? I'm not them.
Yeah.
And I would say, because you have somewhat of the same personality. And I also thought because I wasn't yelling and I wasn't cussing, because for the most part, I don't cuss. And so, at my kids, let me rephrase that. I thought I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
And I believe in therapy. Like I said, I'm a social worker, so I had placed myself in therapy, and I had placed my kids in therapy. There's a separate from us. So until their community support worker had talked to me privately, and they keep it confidential. They're not going to tell me what, of course, and I don't want to what my teenagers are saying to them unless there's if there's some kind of harm, then they have to step in, right? Yeah. But she had talked to me one time and she said, yeah, they were just sharing. I just wanted to share with you just certain things that I don't know if you were aware of. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm the one that placed them in therapy. So it's not like I'm going to be like someone who's resistant to their kids talking to other people about how the teenagers feel. You're not going to place them in therapy because you're going to be scared of what they might tell somebody. Mm-hmm. But like I said, I'm on a healing journey. That's part of my life purpose. And so whatever I go through, I also teach, I preach, I pass it along because it's another journey for me. So she said, I just wanted to, she was like, I just wanted to share with you. The kids say it really bothers them when you talk about their dad. Now, again, I'm thinking, I don't do this often. I don't do this every day. I don't do this every week. It's just when I get really angry and I'm overwhelmed. It doesn't happen often. So this is what I'm thinking. It's nothing. Kids are used to hearing that every day. And I'm, nose in the air. I don't even do that every day. And I don't yell at them. So what is she talking about?
Yeah.
But I was open to hearing from her because if she's coming to tell me this, that obviously means, I don't care what I think, that obviously means there's an issue there that they thankfully feel comfortable telling her.
Yeah, yeah.
And so she's like, I was like, and then I had to say, when I thought about it, you know what, they did mention that to me. They already mentioned it. I brushed it off because, again, you're talking about where does everything flow from? It flows from the relationship with yourself. So myself was telling myself it's not a big deal because your delivery, it's not often, and your delivery, you're not yelling. I don't physically spank my children. So I'm thinking I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when she said that, and I heard a third party say it, and I was open to hearing the third party say it dawned on me. And then I've had a situation with my daughter, my only daughter, and she's about to be 14. And she said it again. They had always said it, but she said it again. Mm-hmm. And it finally woke me up that this was really a big problem for them. Even though she's not a guy, like what we were talking about, what I was saying about their dad.
Yeah.
So I made a commitment to myself that I would temper that or walk away. I've done well, but I have slipped a few times. I'm going to say it like this. On this, I don't do it as often, and I'm going to get to the point where I don't do it at all.
Yeah.
Because basically, they're not responsible for my triggers. No one's kids are responsible for the triggers that we come with as parents.
Yeah.
Whether, you know what I mean? Whether it's even gender turned around. If it's the guy talking about his kid's mom or his ex-wife. No, our kids, teenagers are not responsible for what triggers us. And we can get triggered because we human.
Yeah.
And so to answer your question, when you say, oh, yes, women like that, I can say, hands up, if this was a circle, oh, you mean me? And it doesn't bother me to say that because I know my purpose is to teach, preach. But my number one purpose is healing myself.
I'm glad you said that.
So, Oh, okay.
No,
I thought you were about to segue.
Yeah, I'm serious. I'm glad you started talking like that, and that you said, you're committed to healing, because I ain't gonna lie. If you have exes and you have children, I mean, like you said, they ain't responsible for the triggering. A lot of times, kids they don't understand the history, and I think a lot of times some kids, they're gonna have to grow. And I've even said this myself, is that they're going to have to see it for themselves.
Right. My aunt always says that. Yeah.
They're going to have to see it for themselves, why you say what you say. And the pain behind it. And sometimes even the passion behind it, because, all they see is, why is mommy angry at daddy, or why is daddy angry? And we don't know his side of the story. And the crazy thing is that, it's like that, I believe, is because they're not there all the time.
They're not, well, in my situation, they're not there most of their life.
Yeah.
And, but again, before I say what I'm going to say, I'm still, like I told my aunt one time, I said, but I'm still, at the end of the day, I am still, and any woman listening, any single mother listening who's ever been frustrated, who's ever been overwhelmed, you don't want your kids gone. You don't hate being a mom. You don't hate that they crying. You don't hate that you got to take them to the hospital. But for any mother that's listening, any single mother who feels overwhelmed, who feels frustrated, who feels like, why can't I get help from the dad? I'm going to just say this. We're still responsible for what we're triggered by. We're still responsible for not projecting onto our kids our hurt. And again, sometimes it is, guys, but I'm talking, on this podcast, just specifically for the single mothers who are carrying 2 loads, sometimes 3 loads. So it's hard. And I can tell you that, baby, it's hard. It's very rewarding. There's nothing you would trade for that. But they're not responsible for our triggers. And that's why I got myself in therapy, one of the reasons. And we as the single mothers, who've been given this task to be single mothers, we have to commit to getting a better relationship with ourselves to unlock those triggers. Because it still goes back to, what did I allow in a past relationship? What did I see growing up? And why am I talking this negative stuff, whether it's to my kids or anybody else? Why am I saying it? Not what they're saying, not what they're saying, not what they're projecting. Because you're only responsible. It still goes back to what you started with. Goes to our relationships with self. We'll project. I don't care how much we love our kids, none of that. Project on if we are not aware and woke of our patterns.
Yeah.
We got to be committed to ourselves, which requires healing. Healing. Whether mama said negative stuff to you, whether mama wasn't even there. Some women didn't mean wrong with their mom. Were raised by grandparents. A lot of adults that were raised born during the crack era, were raised by grandparents or other relatives. So they don't even have that framework yet to be able to say, oh, let me do what my mama did during hard times, or let me do what my daddy did. They only had a framework. Yeah. So but again, it goes back to self. Everybody's been wounded. Everybody's been damaged. Maybe not in the same way. But it goes back to, do I want to keep acting like this, or do I want to get better? And it's not going to happen overnight.
Yeah, exactly. So, the thing that is, it's not going to happen overnight, but you have to be committed to the journey.
You have to choose to be committed. Just like everything is a choice. I don't have to be. Because if I sit there and say what I was saying before when my kids were bringing it to me, Mom, could you stop saying that? Because again, I allowed them to talk openly. So it wasn't like, don't talk to me like that. I would brush them off. Because again, my mindset was, I'm not doing anything wrong. God had to send in a third party to say, can I talk to you? Just want to share just a few things. I don't tell you what they discussed with me, but I just want to share this part. I don't know if you were aware, but and then mind you, there's 2 of them that with the community support worker. Yeah. They both said it. They don't have, and here's the thing, they don't have dual calls. She talks to them individually. So if God sends somebody who does not even know you. It's no, you know, she doesn't have a reason to tell me this. And then you have two of your different kids who express the same thing. You can choose to ignore that and say, they better be glad I'm putting a roof over their head, and they better be glad because their fathers ran away. You can choose that way. You can choose that way. Mm-hmm. Or you can say, let the air out and say, oh my goodness, I never want to intentionally crush my kids. Let me have some quiet time. You don't have to tell the person that, but you say, oh, I'm listening. Oh, thank you. But what you would say to yourself, oh, let me get some tea. Oh, I need to sit with this.
Yeah.
I didn't know I was intentionally crushing them. I would have never done it. I thought they'll be fine. At least I don't do A, B, and C, so I'm not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, exactly.
So we got to hear too. We got to hear.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we definitely do. Because I remember I was on the dealing with my son's mother. I never thought that we would ever get to a good place, but we are. But I remember some of the things that she used to say, even in his presence about me. Oh, you sorry ass. I'm like, whoa. Yeah. And I mean, those words would cut deep. I mean, right. Sometimes some of the things that she would say, and I knew where it was coming from. It was coming out of a place of hurt. It was coming out of a place of disappointment.
Right.
And I got that. But, I had to get to the place where I had to make up in my mind that, I didn't want to argue in front of him. And I had to get to the place whereas I didn't want to argue over stuff that happened 20 plus years ago.
Yeah.
But I totally got it, and I ain't gonna lie. I apologized later down the road. Apology wasn't accepted. The apology was not accepted. And so, and so I get the fact of, in life, you're going to have to deal with some people, even though you offer closure in an olive branch, they ain't going to take it. But, no,
and remember you and I talked about forgiveness last time, and how tough that is. Remember, but I'm listening. You were saying, but
but at the end of the day, he totally began to see, and I used to tell him, I was like, man, look, I told him, even when his mom would get mad at him, I'm like, son, you got to understand how your mom is. Your mom, she says things the way that she says it is because she cares about you. I know it may seem like she's hollering. And I know you just like me, when you start hearing all that, you start to shut down. I get it.
Right.
But what she is actually saying is, I love you and I care about you.
Right.
And so I had to begin to look back and look at it from a different perspective. And then I had to be aware to her language. And so, when I got to the place where I could dismantle, God dismantled the trigger. Because I mean, it used to be some things that she would say. Oh my God! I'm like, oh, I'm catching a case today.
Right. You just go ahead and make that phone call.
You know what? I'm serious, and this is how it was. Forgive me for what I'm getting ready to say. I don't give a fuck. Fuck it. Call them. I'm serious. I used to say that.
Right.
Because I just got that.
You were at that point.
I was at that point. But then I had to get to the place where I'm like, I cannot allow a person to drive me to the point. Because then I had to ask myself, I don't want nobody having that much power over me, having that much control over me. And then I end up losing the most priceless thing in my life, my freedom.
Freedom, yeah.
Freedom in my mind, freedom in my body.
Yep.
I don't want nobody having that type of control.
Right.
Even with my emotions.
Yeah.
And so, I had to work that. And I mean, I ain't gonna lie, it was tough.
Sure it is.
But I ended up working it, and then I began to really see from a different perspective because I'm not gonna lie, I was like, Lord, if you ever bring me out of this, I promise. I promise I do right. And God brought me out.
Right.
I had to start making some amends. I started calling up, girls from my past. Hey, I just want to let you know, I apologize for the way that I was, and can you forgive me? I mean, I just started I'm
Right.
I'm putting out that thing because I look where God brought me from.
Right.
I look where God brought me from, and then I had to look at also what's at stake if I don't change. Because if I don't change, then He's going to take it on, and then he won't be able to have a successful relationship with a good woman. Because I believe everybody has flaws.
Absolutely.
You know, and it's all about, okay, what you're willing to tolerate. When it
Yeah.
comes
And what you go ahead. Yeah. No. Just
and
what you're willing to tolerate and what you learned.
Yeah, and what you're willing to tolerate and what you are willing to deal with, because everybody comes with baggage.
That's right. You got that right.
Yeah, I think, you know, and the crazy thing and the illusion I believe that the church gives you sometimes, and even you know the media gives you, oh, you got to find a person that ain't got a past. Who are you going to find that ain't got a past?
No one.
I'm serious.
No one.
I'm like, man, you need to ask yourself, what's the baggage that I'm willing to deal with? What are the deal breakers in my life?
Yeah.
You know, because everybody has to have a standard. You have to have a standard. Yeah. Okay, this is what I'm not going to deal with. And then you got to stick to it.
Right.
You know, I see so many women, they have a certain standard, and then they just keep lowering it. Yeah. And they keep lowering it because of desperation.
Yes. You know, but here's what's going to happen though, Leon.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Use the word desperate, right?
Yeah.
And I would say they thirsty, right?
Okay.
But here's what would happen in the female circles, though. So all these different, intelligent, beautiful, doesn't matter what job they hold, beautiful, popping females sitting together talking, just talking.
Yeah.
Here's what happens. If you were to come in and say and do a workshop and talk and say the word, I believe it's out of desperation. Do you know every woman in that circle desperate? I'm not desperate, honey, because that. So it is desperation. But a lot of times, and you talked about it earlier, a lot of people want to buy into an illusion, even about themselves.
Yeah.
Even about themselves. So if you say that, and I'm not saying you shouldn't say, what I'm saying is it absolutely is desperation.
Yeah, and the reason why and the reason why I say desperation is because you're desperate to fulfill a timeline, because some people, they have put themselves on that whole thing about biological clock. I'm like, yo, man, don't feed into that. Don't feed into, I'm supposed to have this at a certain age. I'm supposed to have that at a certain age. This is how my life's supposed to be at this point. And some people, it's like, yo, if it don't happen, what? Or are you going to just shut down?
Right.
And that's what I mean when I say desperate to fulfill, a perceived goal that might not even be yours. That was given to you.
Right.
That might have been given to you by Vogue magazine. That might have been given to you by Ebony. That might have been given to you by Jet.
Right.
That might have been given to you by Terry McMillan.
Yep, that's right.
You know what I mean? I'm serious. That might have been given to you by Ava DuVernay.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, you call the shots for your life, and don't let anybody put a parameter on where you're supposed to be.
Right.
Because everybody's journey is different. It's not the same. We don't have the same leg of the race.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so this is what I mean when I say desperation. And some people, man, they, as successful as they are, they, some women have been exploited because of the things that are in media. I've never seen so many black women hate their black skin. And
I would agree with you on that.
And want to look like white women. I'm like, why if you as a black woman got to have blonde hair?
Oh, well, wait, hold on, back up. Let me retract my statement. So first of all, if everyone knows that we're the first women, then everything sprouts from us.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying it like you don't know that, but I'm saying like for your listeners. So therefore, even off the statement you made, that statement is in error.
Okay.
Because everything comes from us. The only reason some people have blonde hair, lighter color eyes is because when they went further, and you would notice, when they went to wherever it was coated, their bodies and genes had to adapt to that environment. Mm-hmm. So you got the lighter hair, lighter eyes. when those of us stayed in Africa or other places that were more heat, what did our hair do? It adapted to that environment. Our hair became curly to help us protect from the harsh nature of the sun. But everything stems from the black woman. So when a black woman wears blonde hair, like I wear like different hair.
Yeah.
And I just did like a little, like what I thought was funny, a little video. But
I saw that video the other day. I like that. I was like,
thanks.
But see, I love the fact that black women, they can be any woman they want. But my thing
we can, but it's swing. We here's the thing. People are so used to seeing just European women with blonde hair. It's associated, but everything springs from the black woman.
Yeah, I agree.
She was found first, so therefore, even the blonde hair, that had to be adapted because of the climate they were in. So, like, even with the blonde hair, my thing is this: a lot of women are not trying to be white women. Mm-hmm. Some are unconsciously,
yeah.
But some, like myself, give me purple. I haven't done blonde yet, but hey, give me that. Uh-huh. I'm creative. I changed. You know what I'm saying? Like I was a social worker. Oh, okay, that's what people knew me as. Okay, then I became a model at 4. Okay, and then I was heavy into advocacy and activism. The advocacy, hasn't left me as far as emailing and things like that. But heavy into that. Then I became a public author. Then I was going around speaking about what I was. So for people like myself that jump here and jump there and are creative, you don't want the same hair. You don't even want the same texture all the time. You want a big bush. Then everybody gonna say, "Oh, yeah, girl, do that afro," even if it's a wig. Oh, do that. Yeah. Then you want blonde hair. Then I've had purple. You know, like. So for certain women, it's just I just want something different. And I like the way it looked on me.
Yeah,
I like this on me. But for other women, I mean, think about it. Even from the African American community, magazines, that lighter, brighter, and I'm not talking about just light skin, but the lighter hair. Mm-hmm. If you look at the colorism, even in the African American magazines, colorism exists.
Oh, it does.
So therefore, you, of course, women unconsciously, some women unconsciously may be taking in, I want to look like this. That's why you see a lot of black women, American women. I'm not talking about those from Africa who still look at Little Kim.
Yeah.
It's plenty of them. She's not the only one. It was somebody else I was just trying to think of. Black China. And Black China was already light skinned. Well, you may not be familiar with how she looks now, but she was already light skinned. And if people see her pages now, she's gone even lighter.
Yeah,
and her face looks and her face looks completely different.
Yeah.
She was cute before.
Yeah.
But she didn't think she was cute. It don't matter. What did Halle Berry say? They said she was People magazine said she was the most beautiful woman in the world at one point. But she has acknowledged she didn't feel that way.
Yeah. Exactly.
So I think yes, unconsciously some women are trying to appeal to what they perceive as everybody says is beautiful.
Yeah.
And then some women just be like, well, I just want to look different on any given day.
Yeah. I totally get that. I think the thing that really grieves me is that, a lot of women, they gotta begin to put themselves to corporate standard. And it's crazy because the white woman doesn't have to do that. Before, a black woman couldn't even wear braids in the office. Now, a white woman, she could wear braids, and they call her boxer braids, and then they changed the policy for her.
Absolutely.
That's how it works. And this is the crazy thing that really, grieves me, because it's like, and I'm gonna say, and this is what Paul Mooney said: everybody want to be a nigga, but don't nobody want to be a nigga.
Absolutely not.
You want everything that's good with the black community. The
swag, the looks, the intelligence, the creativity, I can take nothing and make it into something. Absolutely.
Exactly. But then when it comes to the burden and the black tax, no, I don't want that. That's too daggone hard. I think I'm gonna use my white privilege to negate all that.
Right. And well,
No,
go ahead.
Say what you was going to say.
No, I was about to say something about privilege, and I was like, I wonder if his listeners are like, they're not talking about relationships.
Yeah,
That's why I paused.
Yeah, I know.
But okay, so what I was going to say is, from my perspective, all of us have privilege.
Yeah,
black and white. And here's one thing that happened to me, and male and female. One time, I live in Southeast now, DC. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but my mom was a reverend at this church down the street. This was probably like 12 years ago. I had bought this hoopty of a car because I had 2 kids then. I needed a car. And I worked for the church. My mother worked for the church, but she was a reverend. So she had this guy that's, Morris was his name, and he was a mechanic. And, you know, how a lot of brothers are. They're going to help you out. You help them out that are mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their side gig, you know. So Morris had some challenges, so he didn't, quote unquote, he wasn't wearing a business suit. Let me say it like that.
Okay.
But we were in Southeast DC, which is at that time it was, you know, DC was Chocolate City at that time. So literally, I had to go a mile to the Track Auto store. I didn't listen to this. I didn't even have tags on my car. Did you hear me? Not temporary, no tags. But I look a certain way. So I got to the Track Auto, but before I got there, a cop had pulled me over. Ma'am, you don't have tags. And I said, and I was sincere, I said, you're right. I said, listen, I just bought this car. I just got to get to the Track Auto. And you know what I mean? I worked right there down the street at Union Temple. And I was like, if you want to, you know, go that, I really need to get. And he said, the officer said, I can't remember if he was black or white. I cannot recall. But he said, okay, all right, I understand. Go ahead. I'll let the other officers know not to pull you over. And Tom's like, oh, okay, thank you. Something like that, right?
Yeah.
Morris then had to, when I came back from Track Auto, literally there was like a mile away. Morris had to take my car, because he was working on it, and go to Track Auto. So Morris looks totally different from me. Morris was heavily metal, you know, he's dark skinned. Do you know, he didn't get but up the street, and the officer pulled him over. Morris was in his 30s still, he wasn't like young. Pulled him over. He had to bring that car back. He couldn't go up there. So that was one of the times I can recall. I wasn't using the word privilege. Nobody was using that word at that time like that. But I remember thinking, we went the same route. I got pulled over by an officer too, and they let me slide. See, because I didn't present as a troublemaker. I didn't present as anything other than what I just told, I don't threat either. But I also, it was just very clear. Yeah. I also had privilege too, as a black female. I had that. Now, I'm not saying every officer is going to shoot, because we done seen some officers slam your head in the ground regard. But everyone has certain privilege depending on which circle you in. Yeah. But I know what you're referring to when you're talking about in a larger context. But certain black men who present a certain way got privilege too. Not all of them, because we saw Henry Louis Gates. The police showed up, didn't even think he lived there, from Harvard. You know what I mean? Exactly. But certain times, oh, it's okay. Especially if the black guy's like, oh, you know, oh, I just work here and he's in a suit or something, like, oh, it's all right. All right, go ahead. But I just wanted to say that to say, we all have these biases.
Yeah, we do.
Sometimes they're implicit. Sometimes you may not, like what we're talking about, you may not be aware that you even have them. But that was the first time it became so clear to me. He and I went the same route. We were both stopped. They let me go, and the officer said, oh, I'm going to let the other officers know not to pull you up. And then Morris couldn't even get further down the street. Exactly. They pulled him over. Exactly. Not only pulled him over, told him to go back.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not laughing at the situation. I'm just saying, you know.
Exactly. Because the crazy part is that when it comes to the black men in policing, that's what they're trained. They're trained. Everything
Absolutely.
that's geared towards training for police is always, most of the time, black suspect.
It is. And they've shown that through studies and everything.
Yeah. And and they don't specifically say it, but when you start looking at when they at the range, it's like suspect, black suspect. And that thing is just poured into you. And then you wonder why we see what we see today. Because
no, we don't wonder why. Right.
Because that training, that whole thing from the rogue police officers in the 60s are now the authors of the manuals for today.
Right. And it started mindset wise, we're talking about overseers. That's what we're talking about. Yeah. What did KRS one say? Mr. Officer, overseer.
Overseer, yeah.
So the mindset, which we know things are passed down in DNA, not just our genes, not how we look. The mind, the things are passed down too.
Yeah, exactly.
And then to add on to you going into training, and we've seen it. They've shown us on social media how some people were talking about the target practice was a black man. So, mindset, and then you get additional training. Then the world is showing you. When I was living in North Carolina at one point, it was a very small town called Selma. It's right outside of Smithfield where they make the pork. Yeah. And I was just short story. I was on academic probation. I had moved down there that's where my boyfriend at the time lived. So I had moved down there because I didn't want to go home. And so I had like 3 jobs, but let me tell you, I didn't call myself a writer then, but I was writing. And one time I had noticed in the local newspaper, the only time they mentioned Hispanics, so this was in the 90s, the only time they mentioned Hispanics is when it was something like a criminal. In small towns, they put stuff like who was arrested, who's going to court. They put that in the local paper. Yeah. So I had wrote in. I was really upset that they were only showing, because you're talking about I'm coming from the D.C. area, so I had a Spanish aunt. This to me was unacceptable. So I wrote into the newspaper. And I was like, the only time you all show Hispanic people or talk about them is when they've done something wrong, and that really needs to change. And I didn't even think they were going to publish it, but they did. But it just, biases have started like that. Whichever way, your local paper is always showing the black people that did wrong. Your TV shows, sure, you may watch them, but you may only see 1 or 2 black families. So you implicitly grow up with these biases.
Yeah, exactly.
And we all do. It's just, it's like being woke and awake to really studying yourself when you get a little older. Yeah. But like, okay, what do I think about this? Asking yourself those questions. Getting on podcasts or listening to podcasts and hearing other views just to see like, that's interesting. It's not that you have to agree with it, but like, I never thought about that perspective, or I never, just like reading books or talking to different people.
Yeah, exactly.
Going outside yourself. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Even when going back into relationships, it's some of us, we have, implicit biases when it comes to male-female relationships. I think
we do.
I think probably the biggest question that I have, and maybe you can answer this for me. How is it that you have some women that they have totally grown tired of black men, and vice versa? There are some black men that have totally grown tired of black women, and so now it's like, they have taken that off the whole dating menu. It's like, nah, I ain't fooling with nobody black no more.
Right.
And my thing is, I'm like, wow, you got hurt that bad that you ain't gonna never date another black person.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's a shame, because it's like, I hear the stories. Like, and I got hurt by a black woman, and black women don't know how to do this, and black women don't know how to do. I'm like, bro, really?
Right.
Really? One black woman and turns you off of all black women.
Right.
So you telling me you that weak emotionally that now, you're willing to give a white woman or somebody of another culture graces that you weren't willing to give to the black woman.
The woman that your mother is. But yes. Uh-huh.
So,
but I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure that one out because it's like, really? So in other words, you're trying to say that you couldn't handle a black woman. So in other words, you're saying as a black man, oh, I can handle a white woman better, or I can handle an Asian woman better, or I can handle a Spanish woman better.
Well, that might be the perception.
Yeah. So
so therefore they would. If you think about what you said that's what they might think. I can handle. So that's perception.
Yeah.
And okay, so this is 2020. You and I are in the same age range.
Mm-hmm.
What has happened is, if anyone has really traveled or even watched YouTube, or read different magazines, just heard from different people, looked at different people, then you would know people are people, and the same thing that can happen regardless of your race and ethnicity can happen in any race and ethnicity.
Yeah.
But what's happening, I believe, with African Americans, because of course that's different from someone who was born in Africa and then now lives here. They might have a different perspective. But with African Americans, Black people, what I think is, I know this may sound so far-fetched to people, I think a lot of Black people are internally just tired. So it comes out like, I'm tired of Black men, or I'm tired of Black women. But I think what's happening is, internally, people are breaking down spiritually.
Yeah.
And there's the racism. And then if you're a female, there's the sexism and racism. And then if you're a male, there's the racism, and then there's the egos, and then there's the threatening, and you got to act more feminine. I'm not saying, I got several relatives that are gay. I'm not saying anything against that. But they feel more comfortable with an effeminate man, so you lose out on that job. I think when you're watching the news, now we got social media, and we're seeing all the people. It was happening before, but now we're seeing on repeat people being harassed by the police that look just like us, look like our cousins.
Yeah.
I think people are tired.
Yeah.
I think people are feeling broke down. So what do we do in life? You attack the person closest to you. Everyone has been hurt. Everyone has been wounded. Everyone has been the person that has hurt someone, and vice versa. Everyone has been the person that has been hurt. That's universal laws. Any ethnicity, any race, anything. But with African Americans, we're tired.
I get that. I ain't gonna lie. I know we tired.
Wait, you get which part? Which part?
I get everything that you're saying, but it ain't gonna never make me tired of Black women.
Me either, but listen, Leon.
Yeah.
Me either. And I done been through, like in my first book, I talk about I was raped by an ex, one of my college boyfriends. I've witnessed a lot of, growing up, I witnessed a lot of, not me, but there were a lot of beautiful young girls who were, I didn't witness, hold on, let me back up. I didn't witness, but I knew young girls who were molested. Mm-hmm. And I mean, and one of my girlfriends was raped too around the same time. So let me tell you, it never deterred me neither, but we're going to step outside of me and you, though.
Yeah. We're
going to step outside of, I don't care what goes down. I'm still looking for, is it caramel chocolate over dinner?
Yeah.
We're going to step outside of us.
Yeah. You know what? Yeah, I totally get where you're going at with that. We got to step outside ourselves and see other people's experience. Yeah,
because I'm with you on that. Now, and here's the thing. I'm open to dating another race. But at the top of it, I mean, we got this kind of Black, that kind of Black. Oh, for me? But let's talk about what happens when someone gets tired of life. They don't want to die. Yeah. But what happens? You're not thinking straight. Mm-hmm. Your anger that you're not in therapy.
Yeah.
You're not even watching Ayanna Van Zant shows to try to get therapy on your own. You ain't got to necessarily call a therapist. You're not watching who's the other guy? Tony Gaskin's little 1-minute videos. You're not watching the guy that always sits in his car that all the men joke about. Derek Jackson, you're not watching his 1-minute videos to get therapy. Therapy ain't no just going into an office like I did. You can get therapy other ways. Yeah. Other people that are asking questions that could say, oh, let me think about what that person's saying. So what's happening is people are tired. And when you're tired, you lash out. Any parent knows that. Any employee knows that.
Yeah, exactly.
A supervisor knows that. When you're tired. So what do we have to do? And this is the perfect time for it. For anyone even listening, this is the perfect time for saying, I have the chance to now maybe go to sleep and listen to TD Jakes. Put them on right when I'm going to sleep. Listen to them subconsciously all night. I got the chance to, when I wake up, even for 5 minutes, let me just go ahead and just sit in some quiet, in the sun in my living room, in some quiet, and see what comes to my mind. I got the chance to sit and think about, how did that make me feel when my mom used to tell me, you know good like your father when I was 10? And my daddy was the world to me.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not speaking from my experience. I'm just saying. So what's happening is we can, again, choice. We can choose to recognize and be woke to say, I can do something different right now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm being offered a time in this world where stuff is shut down so much. I can choose to do something different. I can listen to other people. But first people have to realize they're burned out. That's why they're attacking black men or women. You're burned out. There's a difference between you and I having a conversation, what we're doing now on your podcast. We're talking about relationships.
Let me ask you this.
Mm-hmm.
You think someone's is burned out?
No. No, that's a whole, no. That you'd have to take it somewhere else to stay with me.
Okay.
No.
So like,
that's a good, no.
She attacked the black community and she married to a white man.
No. So hold on. So now what I'm talking about as far as relationships of how you started it with those who, I was thinking broader. You named somebody specific. We could talk about her, but I was thinking broader of how you will see, a lot of men will say that online. Oh, I'm tired of black women. They got attitudes. And then you'll see vice versa. Women say,
okay, I'll go back to that. Yeah.
No, we can get to Candace. Yeah. Now, she's an example of, but I was speaking for anyone that's going to be listening. I was at first speaking from people being internally tired and feeling overwhelmed and burned out. Yeah. So therefore they attack the person that looks like them and they attack the person that's closest to them, which is going to be someone who's black.
Okay.
As opposed to, you know what I mean? But what would it go back to even in that instance? As opposed to them saying, Dag, let me look at the choices I've been making and why I keep picking this type of person. Yeah. But now, Candace, I have a different perspective on that.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, yeah, we'll definitely revisit that later. But
she's not burned out.
I totally get where you're coming from with that, because there are people who, I mean, not only have they given up on the black man or the black woman, some of them have even given up on heterosexual relationships and going into homosexual relationships, lesbian relationships, and now they're a part of the LGBTQ plus community. But their reasoning for being over there and their motivation for being over there is because they got traumatized or they got hurt. Or they just got exhausted and tired, and they felt as though, okay, if I go over here, then I won't have that same experience. I'm like, nah, you might. Because you're dealing with unresolved issues.
Unresolved issues. If that is the reason why they're over there. I have a brother. Mm-hmm. It's 4 of us to my mom. My daddy had other kids, but it's 4 of us to my mom. We were all raised together. I have our youngest brother is gay. When he was like, and I mean literally 3 years old, he used to sashay around the house. He used to put on my mother's shoes. People were calling him before he was even interested. I mean, he was like 7. People calling him gay. They could see the femininity in him. Mm-hmm. So you have different people in that community. And I'm not a part of that community, so I don't want nobody being like, they were on their best. But I have a lot of relatives, male and female, who identify with that community. But my brother would be one of the ones that ain't like girls. And it was so apparent from an early age that he was girly. Mm-hmm. And I mean, now he's like a grown man, so he's not going to be like, let me say for him in particular, he ain't wearing none pink. He's not, you know what I mean? That's not his way he identifies. and stuff. But I do know some females who have been hurt and maybe even sexually traumatized, like you said,
Yeah.
from relationships with men. And yes, that was the statement. Because again, when you're tired and burned out, you may think you're going to find it. I mean, you may think if I try this, women won't treat me like that. Until you learn what we talked about earlier. What's difference is not the gender, it's not the race.
Yeah.
People got different personalities, and you're going to find out whether it's a male or a female. If some of the women you date, they might act just like some of the dudes you dated.
Exactly.
You just might think. I'm not saying what that person's journey should be, but I'm just saying it's not about that outside. It's really about. That's why some people want to be referred to as she, her. They don't want any labels. They always may have felt like, I've seen interviews where they felt like they were always of the opposite sex. Mm-hmm. And I'm not here to tell you what you are, and I still got so many other parts of my story that, so that's not my necessarily journey, but it does go back to, it can go back to unresolved trauma from relationships. And relationships where that person thought this is someone I could trust, and that trust was betrayed.
Exactly. And I totally get that. And I'm gonna make it clear. I'm not bashing.
Right.
Yeah, I'm actually an advocate, and I'm
actually an advocate. Yeah. I've seen some of your
Yeah, but I think the one thing that I may catch some heat on and some pushback on is what happens when the community changes when it comes to the LGBTQ plus. What happens when the community or some of the narratives in the community starts to change and it goes against your personal convictions? I think.
Okay, what you?
Yeah,
define that a little bit more for me. Like what you get pushback on?
No, I said no. What I said was I know I'm going to get pushback for saying this. What happens when the community comes in conflict with some of your personal beliefs and some of your personal convictions? Say like if you're an LGBTQ plus person and you are a Christian, what happens?
Okay. I see what you're saying. I didn't know what you were saying.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I mean when I say that, because when I talk to Christian people who are in the LGBTQ, my question is, does the community come first or does God come first? And that's the thing, because if the community goes one way, do you go that way with the community in spite of what the Word of God says? Are you going to go with the community or are you going to go with God? That's the thing I'm probably going to get some pushback on, because I still got some interviews that I'm going to deliver, and I know I'm going to catch heat for them.
Okay.
And everything.
Okay.
But I think the one thing that I have seen, everybody's journey is different. Like you explained about your brother. But a lot of things that I've been hearing and a lot of things that I've been seeing, even with the interviews, is the one thing that has been consistent is people's need to get healed from trauma. Because a lot of times the trauma is the motivation that leads them into certain lifestyles, into certain relationships. And I'm like, you even though you're there and it may be new, you still got to deal with the old ghosts. Yeah,
if you want to, if you choose to.
Yeah, but see, the crazy part is that a lot of people, they get tortured or they start experiencing the torture and try to self-medicate, because as soon as you get that moment of peace, here come the memories. Out of the blue.
That's real.
And then next thing you know, you're like, why am I thinking about this person?
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, it's like, I got to do something because I don't want to experience that again.
Right. Right.
So I mean, I totally get it when you're saying that people are tired. So hey, I want to change it up. Let's talk about sex.
Okay. To be on the funny side, but to be on the funny side, guess what? Excuse me. On that topic, guess what? On the funny but real side, guess what some of the married wives are going to say when their husbands say that? They're going to say, "I'm too tired.
Yeah.
But what they, you know, what they're really translating? What do you think they're really saying when they say to their husband, "Oh, I'm too tired," or their boyfriend or whatever? What do you think they're really saying?
I don't feel like accommodating you tonight.
Yeah, I'm not connected to you, so I'm not doing it.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't mean actually. I'm not. So what I'm gonna tell you is I'm tired, but words female speak is I'm tired of your BS. I'm tired of you not doing the dishes. I'm tired of me always going to the laundry. That's what she's really saying. She's saying I'm tired of you didn't give me any flowers. Yeah. But this is gonna come off when he wants some, whether it's husband, whether it's boyfriend, whether it's fiance. She's gonna turn her back and she's gonna say I'm tired.
Yeah.
But a woman will tell you that means a whole lot.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. I'm being transparent, and I know I'm probably going to catch hell for this in my own personal house. I had that happen, and I wrote a book about that.
Yeah.
I wrote a book about that.
Oh,
shit.
cool.
I'm serious.
Yeah.
My current book is about that. I'm serious.
Yeah.
My current book is about that. But then I had to look.
Oh, the one where you have the man on that. Let no man asunder.
Yeah, let no man put asunder.
Yeah, I gotta get that. Yeah.
And so my book is about that because. You know, it was one of them type of deals where, my wife was feeling like, okay, if I do this, because I feel like I'm going to go to hell if I do this particular sex act. And I'm like, okay, it don't even say that in the Bible.
Right, that's true. That is true.
The Bible says that marriage is honorable and all, and the bed undefiled.
Well,
and so
the aunties and the uncles said it. You know what I mean? Yeah. The aunties and the uncles of the church incorporated their own verse into scripture.
Yeah. And my thing is, I'm like, well, so in other words, you saying that Apostle so-and-so's word is greater than my word in this house.
Yeah,
that's what you're saying. But in all actuality, in reality, going back to what you were saying, she got tired of me doing some certain shit, and that's what it was. But she just put a spiritual excuse on it. Then I got mad. And I wrote a book.
Right.
And I wrote a book about
it.
That's
right.
But it wasn't until a prophetess came and told her, said, "Hey, the Lord is telling me you need to get your house together. You need to get and start focusing on your house." And then after that, everything went back to normal.
Okay.
But it was crazy because now I'm like, and in the back of my mind, I was like, is she mad at me about something?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's what it was. But I didn't. But I wasn't aware to it.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware to it. So the whole thing about, hey, I'm not going to do this because Pastor so and so said this and this pastor said, and I don't want to go to hell. I'm like, oh my God. And then being Christian, what are you supposed to do with that?
Okay. So define, what are you supposed to do with that? Because we just said a few things. Which part of that?
What I mean is, when a person says that they don't want to go to hell, it's nothing that you can really. I mean, there's no defense against that, because
I wouldn't.
That's their belief.
Well, I would say it like this to answer your question. What can you do with that? In a different approach of not defending, but let's have a conversation. And matter of fact, the best way to have a conversation is to bring out the Bible while you're having it. So therefore you both can refer to and then break down interpretation and perspective of the scripture you read. Because you and I could read the same scripture. That's why we got different parts of different churches. You and I could read the same scripture. And then you got one church that's going to say, God said women shouldn't adorn themselves. They shouldn't wear earrings. Yeah. And then you got another church, like, women wear earrings down to the floor. But so it's really even changing the word defensive. Like, how can you defend that? But more so, like, how can we have this conversation? Can I please have this conversation with you with the word there?
Yeah.
So then it would take off from there. Because if somebody doesn't trust you, I don't care if y'all together or not.
Yeah.
They're not going to trust what's coming out your mouth.
Yeah. And then I really had to really look at myself, because I was
like,
Lord, I know I ain't cheated. I ain't did none of that. I mean, it could be, because if I did, I could understand.
Right.
But this, I was like, oh man, she must be fucking mad at me. Yeah. And I'm trying to figure out, okay, what the hell did I do?
Right. And it's
I'm serious. I'm that during that whole period of my life.
right.
My whole narrative was that song by Stevie Wonder, "Blame It on the Sun." I'm serious. I'm like, okay, in my heart, blamed it on me. And then I was like, okay, I'm picking myself apart. I'm like, well, okay, I still ain't got it. But, God, the prophet came through. And,
right. But also, and that helped your wife to see at that time that because somebody else brought it. See, it wasn't you.
Yeah.
And it's not.
And it was a female. It was a female prophetess.
And it was a female. So that's a difference depending on who the woman is. I was watching this other social worker in D.C. Her first name is Mywin. Yeah, I'm real good with names. Mywin. She was doing an interview and she was talking about counseling. This is a real quick point to what you just said about the prophetess being a female.
Yeah.
And she said to everyone listening, she said, don't assume that everybody wants it, because she's a social worker too. She said, don't assume everyone wants a black social worker. She said, you don't know that person's past, and a black social worker, even a female, may trigger something in them. She said, you don't know. Maybe their mother was abusive to them. And so what you just said, not that I'm saying your wife is abused, but different people can bring different messages, but the outside may have a role to play in what they're willing to share. So because the lady was a female prophetess, your wife was receptive to the message. Because it was coming from you and she had issues with what your actions were at that time, she was not receptive. It didn't matter if Jesus would have just come right on down right then and there and said, listen to Leon. She would have been like, I ain't listening to him because he didn't do the dishes and he didn't give me flowers. She had trust issues with you. And again, men and women talk different. So it's like what we started out with.
Yeah.
If a woman says to her husband, fiance, boyfriend, and he says, he rolling over, it's winter season. She's like, oh, I'm tired. That's code word for let me figure out what she and I need to talk about because she's mad at me or something. Yeah. Ain't no guessing to it. I'm tired.
Yeah, exactly.
Now I'm not talking about once or twice, but when it's a pattern, when it's repeated, she's telling you without telling you, I'm tired. Could you please try to figure out what it is for me? Could you please but that's how women speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, when you get to a certain point, when you get to a certain point in your life, you start to speak more and make your needs known.
Yeah.
And so yeah, for any guy that's listening to the podcast, we're gonna listen to it. That's what she means. You better figure out what she's talking about, or she's gonna give her back to you a lot.
Oh, exactly. I'm telling you guys, hear me when I say you need to learn the art of listening.
Yeah,
you need to
yeah.
learn the art of listening and also communicating, because this is what you're going to hear.
Yeah.
You're supposed to just know.
well, hold on, wait. Not everybody says that though, but
not everybody says it, but
that is what a lot of women say. Yeah,
that's a lot of women say
that is.
He's supposed to just know. Who doesn't know that? I'm like, hold up, he ain't in your head. Some I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah.
And this is the frustration that I get. You want a man to do something,
right?
But then if you tell him what to do and he starts doing it, then you get mad because you had to tell him.
Okay, so
I can't. I don't get that.
I don't really have that one. I'm silent because I don't really have that experience. But you know what it would probably go back to? It would probably go back to how she saw the women in her life talking to men that they were with.
Yeah. And
relating to men with. So it's probably a pattern. I think a lot of women say that though. He should know. And you be like, girl, he ain't no mom reader. You ain't tell him. Exactly. Now I can see if you told him though. Here's the thing too. If you've told your significant other, husband, boyfriend, fiance, whatever, and then he repeatedly still does not take the action to do anything about it, it's real simple too what he's telling you. It's very simple what he's telling you. I don't care enough to change my actions. How about that?
Exactly.
You ain't gotta wonder, why didn't you do it? Let me tell you something, baby girl. he's telling you. Just like we talk a certain way, you all talk through action. Yeah. And I'm not saying you all don't talk, but you all also show. Women want to be loved, men want to be respected.
Yeah.
But then you know what I mean? But then you also have like, we're in the same age range. My generation of women want to be loved and respected.
Yeah.
But not from the same degree that respect doesn't hold the same thing as far as how it is for men of any race. Men want to be respected. So there's a different love language there, just like for women.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, most men, it's like respect is number one. I mean,
yeah.
Matter of fact, that don't even get a number. That's the start.
Right. That's just what it is.
That's just what it is. It's the start.
Right.
And number 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
Is respect is like it's there. It's
everything.
It's everything. It's and then everything else falls in, under that.
Right.
And I totally get the fact that it's different with women, but I think the thing is that
somewhat different. Yeah.
Yeah. It is. Yeah. Somewhat different. But I mean, I look at it like this. When it comes to sex, we got to have that conversation, but also there needs to be, respect because, I believe that some women, in dating, as soon as they have sex with a guy, that automatically means that, okay, we're in a relationship and we are on our way to get married because I just.
Whoa. You're saying your experience of knowing women and dating women, that has been their track, their trajectory track?
No. I said some, not all.
Right, that's what I said. Yeah. Oh, okay. That's been their trajectory track, like their goals.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of them is like, okay, well, we hooking up.
Yeah.
So I expect our dating to lead into marriage. Do you think that's fair? Do you think that's fair?
I don't know okay, let me say this. I don't know too many women. My girlfriend, okay. A lot of us were taught growing up, like I had mentioned already, focus on your education, get your career, get your own house, get your own things, and then get serious. A lot of us were taught that, while guys of the same generation were taught and have been taught, you have value when you're with someone. When you get the baddest female, whatever, it brings your stock up. So guys a lot of times are hunting a lot,
Yeah.
Whereas for women, they may be hunting, but they were taught get the other things first because even from uncles, you may not have a guy around all the time, so you need you need to be able to fend for yourself, basically.
Yeah.
So I don't. No, but I'm saying so a lot of the females that I've been friends with over the years, career women, attractive, lively, involved, own interests, different person, different looks. None were thinking we smashing, and so therefore we're getting married. But what did happen almost across the board, I'm gonna tell you this much, not the marriage thing. What did happen almost across the board was at different times. Well, okay, wait a minute. If I'm with him like that, ain't no sharing going on. We dating.
Yeah.
Once you get to a certain age, you start to have more deeper conversations where you already know where you're going with that before you jump into something.
Yeah, exactly.
But what we were doing, like in college, absolutely. If I'm here with you, if we're in this relationship, we're in a sexual relationship. Okay, no. Unless we've already said it's open like that, we're not. No, you with me. Matter of fact, where's Alicia? No, I'm just playing.
So let me. I'm gonna start some trouble. I'm gonna start some trouble right here. So in other words, okay, soon as we get it in, as soon as we knocking boots, as soon as we smash.
Oh, 90s knocking boots.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes.
As we smash.
Right.
Then that automatically means that okay, we are in an exclusive relationship. So if I say, hey, I introduce you as my friend, and you catch an attitude.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And then your response would be, well, you ain't say that when you was fucking me.
Right, and then any female though with class would never say that out loud in front of people. But
No. She ain't gonna say that. She gonna look at you like, what? Friend?
What is? Yeah. So here's what. Like I said, that was when I was in college. You know what I mean? We all had that mindset, and remember, we were friends with each other, so we all talked about the same type of relationship.
Yeah.
Now we didn't say it, dude. That's one thing we ain't do. But that was college.
Yeah.
Once you start to date, you realize, oh, wait a minute, it does not work like that.
Yeah, exactly.
The way that it works is when you have a conversation, several conversations with that dude ahead of time, you're going to already know what he's looking for, and he's going to already know what you're looking for.
Exactly.
But here's what a lot of us did still once we knew. Here's what we did. I don't know if women still, well, no. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Some women do still do this. Even women my age.
Yeah.
We would have these conversations and it'd be very clear we were just friends, right? But I mean clear from the guy's perspective. But the female would be thinking, it's going to turn into more. And then the disappointment would set in when it didn't turn into more. And then he got a new boo right after you that he got serious with. And,
oh my God.
So,
I had that.
Yeah. So that was, it really depends on what it boils down to with this conversation. To what you're talking about is where that man and woman are mentally before they even smash, before they even have sex, before they even become intimate, where they both are. And if neither one is discussing, hey, I expect this. Hey, I'm looking for this.
Yeah.
Then what's going to happen is going to be a smash up, all right?
Yeah.
What's going to happen is after they do become intimate, she could be thinking one thing, he could be thinking one thing. So it really just depends that on that woman and that guy. He might even be thinking, it could be reversed, where she's thinking, he is one of my friends. I'm not serious about him, but I really like him. And he might be thinking to his boys, yeah, I know I'm gonna lock her in a minute. As soon as I put this down, I'm gonna lock her in.
Uh-huh.
And he may be thinking, and then after he does become intimate with her, have sex with her, he's thinking, yeah, they all cuddled up. He's thinking, I got her. And then a week later, he's texting her and he's like, where you at? And she's like, what you mean? Don't be questioning me. What you mean by that?
Exactly.
It really depends on where the person is. Like for a long time, I'm trying to think which area I'm about. So for a long time, I didn't date. Like after I had, okay. I don't know if I said this in the first show, but even for anyone listening, to me, you always got to give context because you don't necessarily know how that person is. I'm a black or white person. I'm very rarely middle ground.
Yeah.
I'm either all the way in or I'm all the way out. And sometimes I have very crazy levels of discipline when it comes to just different, whatever I focus my mind on.
Yeah.
And so, like, I finished my first book in 2 nights. Even though I'm in my 40s, I still run. And sometimes if it's warm outside, I might stay outside for 4 or 5 hours. And the only reason I may go back in, be like, oh, I got to cook dinner or something, just to exercise. And I'm not doing that for other people. It's just I can get very, very tunnel vision on whatever I'm doing. And so let me give you an example. I didn't date for a while after I wrote my first book.
Yeah.
I was still going through stuff with both of my kids' dads. I was still in love with the one I have 3 kids with at that time. Mm-hmm. But he and I were still dealing with each other. Matter of fact, he had moved in with me at one point, and I'm thinking we doing this. I'm laughing now. I'm thinking we doing this family thing but he and I never had this conversation. Here's what I'm thinking because you moved in with me. Now, we didn't have a conversation, so he didn't know. To me, I've never seen a woman move in with a man in my life that was not serious. I've never seen that. I also never stopped to ask him, hey, have you ever done this before? Like move in with somebody? Like, so this is, for me, we locked in together. You move, not locked in for life. I'm just saying like we have We had 2 kids at that point. So I had 3 kids altogether, but at that point I had 2 kids by him. I totally thinking, come on now. I mean, I'm going home to the same guy. In my world, and the women I saw grow up, the women I saw, they either had boyfriends they were living with or they were married. It was no in between. It wasn't, I didn't grow up around women who visibly showed men coming in and out of their house. That was never my experience. All the different aunties I had, I didn't say they didn't do it. I don't know. They didn't show it though. So my perception, but again, Leon, he and I never had this. Of course, I could say this in hindsight. He and I never sat down, even in bed or laid down and had this conversation like, what did you see? We had conversations about our parents, but never, what did you see from your uncles and aunts about relationships? Have you ever lived with somebody before? Because this is pretty serious to me. I wouldn't dare live with my kid's dad. And I'm a very loyal person if I'm dating you. And so I didn't know that behind my back. Again, I can laugh. This is like, what, 12 years ago, 10 years ago? So behind my back, he was telling people, it just came out later. That's why I'm laughing. He was telling people, I don't have anything to do with her. We're not in no relationship.
Oh.
Yeah. So and here's how I know he was telling people.
Uh-huh.
So first of all, I'm not the type, unless it's my close circle, I'm definitely not the type to discuss my relationship, if I have a relationship, or anything with people unless they're my type. Even if someone wants to look at my Facebook page, you'll never know if I'm in a relationship or not. Yeah. It's if I say I'm in it. And that's just my nature. And so the reason I knew it was true is because when I started doing the activism and community work, I was living in Alexandria, but coming into DC, right? So all the people that were community activists were somehow associated with him too, because not somehow, he's very well known. And he has done a lot of work over the years, politically and other ways. So people knew him. And so they would say to me, sometimes they just be like, I would be like, oh yeah, I'll see when he gets home. And then I could see sometimes, I couldn't pick up on, people almost would like turn their head like, oh. They wouldn't say anything, because you could tell I'm a private person when you meet me. You could tell I'm not going to talk about anything dumb or raunchy if you're just meeting. I'm not going to do that. And so it finally clicked when it got back to me through several people. Yeah, he said you all weren't even dating, that you were a one-night stand. So, but here's where I'm going with this and why I'm laughing. Because again, I wasn't laughing then. Okay, for anyone listening to your show, I definitely was not laughing then. We never had the conversation that people need to have, whether you're in your 20s, whether you're in your 30s or 40s. Hey, how do you feel about dating? How do you feel about, if you live with someone, does that mean for you, you're not going to be seeing anyone else? If you live with someone, what does that mean to you? Have you ever done that before? Have you ever lived with someone before? How did that turn out? So what happened is a smash up turned, like a battleground turned into, because here I am thinking we're doing something very serious, because this is something I would never do randomly, casually. But again, you know what it goes back to?
What's up?
It goes back to a woman not recognizing she needs to have these conversations, whether you got kids or not. I'm thinking we got 2 kids. How could anyone think this is playtime in my mind? Once it got back to me, like, you lying out here? You telling people I ain't nothing? What? So, but this was regular. This was a pattern for him. Mm-hmm. So, and he didn't have a conversation with me. So what happened is a lot of drama. And, I can go more into that later. But what happened is a lot of drama, because there were 2 people coming together on 2 different pages, and neither one had an in-depth conversation other than about our parents, how our parents were. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I totally.
So people can avoid that. People can avoid the. I thought we were doing this, and I thought we was doing that, and I didn't know you even like that sex act. See, because here's the thing. Now I'm a woman. Now I'm older now. I've lived some. I've had my heart broken. Well, I don't like using that word because words are important. I've had, I've been through some series of terrible relationships. But one thing I can always say, I can't speak for other women. God always showed me who those men were in the early stages of dating. The thing is, Nisa Harper just said, I didn't say I could change him. What I used to say, which is the equivalent, oh, he'll change. I didn't think but it's still the equivalent. You're really thinking, you're sitting there, your ego is telling you, for any of the ladies listening, your ego, not God, because God is going to show you that person. Their stuff is going to creep up. Your ego is telling you, you the one, baby. He going to change for you. Oh, yeah. Listen, I don't care how all the women listening, single, whatever, dating scene, whatever. I don't care how good your wop is. I don't care how good you cook. You know, I had to say that to be funny, but I don't care. I don't care how good you cook. I don't care how many businesses you own or how big your house is. Yeah. I don't care how much you can quote the scriptures from top to bottom. A man who wants to be kept, who wants to be in a relationship, will stay. That's it's not, if I do this and I do that, I can save him. If I do this and I do that, he's going to change for me because I'm me. I'm such and such. Doesn't he know who I am? What it is?
Yeah, exactly.
Our egos will lead us wrong too. And if we don't recognize in hindsight our patterns, because sometimes, I know women could do this a little bit better than some men, a lot of men. Men will find out women have taken a break from dating. And they'd be like, oh, you see, a woman can, somebody asked that question on social media. They were like, are you taking a dating? One of the guys that I had gone to college with. And I said, I put up a post, Leon, and I said something like, men, dear fellas, something, recognize all women who are single are not trying to date. I put something, I said, some of us are single by choice. And the guy from college, he's always got good content on his page. I mean, he's like, but he said, he said, is that because you think it's not a lot of, the dating pool, or you just single, something like that? And I answered and said, a woman can get very busy where she allows other things to take up her time, whether it's her kids. But some of my girlfriends didn't even have kids. It could be their career. It could be travel. It could be getting their businesses off the ground. It could be bringing down their debt so they can get a home. But whereas I've noticed a lot of men, just even from guy friends that I've always had, when they say to a woman, I'm not dating, I always tell the young girls, say to him, get a little deeper with him. Say, define that for me. Is there someone that can call you a husband, boyfriend, fiance? Or are you in an open relationship? Men can tell you more.
Yeah.
But for a woman, a guy should ask her deeper too. But for a lot of times, if she's not dating and she's seriously not dating, best believe something else is taking her time. That she's maybe it's self-improvement. Maybe she's on a retreat with God. Maybe she's trying to figure out who God wants her to be. But for men, it seems like y'all always have someone in the cut. Not, and I'm talking about maybe can't go like 3 months just without taking a number or something like that. But
it's always like that. It's always, I ain't gonna lie, some guys, you always got that one in the back pocket.
Yeah, and they said, I saw somebody say that on social media about females. They said, so I'm gonna ask you this question right after I say, I saw a meme the other day, and sometimes
Chris Rock said,
they said every woman who says she has a friend has a backup, and I've never been like it. So when I saw that, I was curious. I don't just go off of what I think. I want to know what other people think, just like you, how you interview all these people. Yeah. And so when I saw that, I was looking at the comments, and a lot of women say, "Yeah, it's true." And I was thinking, "Oh, that's interesting." So do you think, or do a lot of men think that? Well, hold on. Let me back up. How often do you think men have these conversations with women about expectation, about what this really is, or before they lay down with them, or right after they lay down with them?
Well,
how does that go?
Let me just say this. Some guys, you have two types of guys. You have the guys that are honest, that can tell a woman, yo, this is what this is about. And then a woman can go off of that. She'll either accept it or reject it. And then the other guys, they're not going to get honest until there's confrontation.
Okay.
And then it's like, Well, you know what this was from the beginning. And she didn't know what it was about because you wasn't honest. You know what I mean? And it's crazy because you know, a woman she can very well accept the fact that, okay, this is what Eddie is bringing. Eddie's saying it won't be nothing but sex. Eddie got a wife. Eddie got da 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 da.
Yep.
And all it is sex to him. So but then you got James. James is making you think you're gonna be his next wife.
That is true. Yeah.
But then James, you know, he ain't telling you that he got a girlfriend, he got a baby mom, and he ain't told you all that. And so, so when you get in the argument, you ain't gonna have no argument with Eddie because you know what it is.
Yep, you're right.
You may have disappointment with Eddie.
Yes.
Because, you know, you might have started catching feelings.
Yeah.
And everything, but then you have the argument with James because you were actually thinking that, okay, this is what it's going to be. And then, the honesty of James comes out and he just said, well, you know what it was from the door. We was just fucking. That's the statement. You know what I mean? You know, and I mean, these are the words, and I totally get why women get turned off. You know, and then I mean, you got the flip side. You know, if a guy, you know, gets his emotions out there, get his heart out there, you know, some women will say, well, you know, I'm sorry, you know, I like you, but I'm really not feeling you. I like you, but I'm not feeling you like that.
It's funny because with each scenario, you use the different voices that men and women would use. You know, that's how I'm laughing.
I love you, but I'm not in love with you.
Oh, yeah.
I hate that. Oh my God, I hate that.
That is totally us. Yeah, because we don't want to, unless you're like a really cold-hearted, like grew up in the streets of New York type female, you don't really want to, and I'm being funny when I say that for any of your listeners, but you don't really want to hurt a guy's feelings. So you would say, yeah, I love you. I love the fact that you that. And you know, but I'm not in love with you.
Yeah, but I'm just not good for you. What? Not good for me, but you done laid down with me. I done invested in you. I did stuff with you.
Gave you money.
I helped you move. I picked your kids up from the daycare, and I broke myself and got little Johnny the PlayStation 5. but
that's funny. Yeah. But it's real.
Yeah, and I'm like, yo, you just use this dude.
Yeah, and she's and then like a month or two later, you see on social media, she's with this guy. But you could just look at the picture and like, oh, he's dogging her.
Exactly. And the crazy part is that what happens, you know, 2 years from now, a year from now, she calling you up.
Oh, yeah.
I was thinking about you. And I'm like, nah,
Yeah.
Because, you know, sometimes you have to say, I was the same guy that you rejected. I was the same dude.
That you rejected. Yeah.
So
let's go. Oh, go ahead.
Or I'm the same woman. I'm the same woman that you hurt before. So what makes you think that it's going to be different now?
It's not.
Especially if the conversation hasn't changed.
Yeah.
If it's still the same conversation, it's still going to be the same outcome.
Yep.
Seriously.
Yep.
And then on top of that, I'm like, no, hey, you expect me to trust you when you didn't repair my trust from the first go around?
Absolutely.
I'm like,
absolutely.
Oh hell no. No, sorry.
But you know what all that goes back to too, aside from not having a conversation, of going a little deeper into seeing what both people's expectations and goals are. It also goes back to when you first started asking me about, let's talk about good men, right?
Yeah.
So if a female has seen raggedy men for the most part in her mom's lives, auntie's lives, girlfriend's lives, if she's chosen raggedy men, let me say that, chosen. And then there's always been nice guys. Nice guys have always been around.
Yeah.
If she continues,
I'm serious.
Right, they say that, and then but when they finish last, like you're talking about at 50, you know what I mean? The woman's like, you know, she's stressed out. She's been divorced 2 times. She's got like 6 kids, you know, and then she's like, I do remember he was so nice to me, and he's like married with this trophy wife.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
so let's go to patterns. When a woman repeatedly chooses a raggedy dude, that means somewhere in her mind, she believes that all men are dogs. This is how it is. So I might as well just date because they're all going to cheat. They're all going to do terrible things. So the expectation becomes they're raggedy. So when God does send a nice guy, even if he's just a nice guy to be a friend, what does she do? She can't appreciate nor value that because in her mindset, belief, the mind dictates our actions. In her mindset, there's no value in a nice guy.
She said it.
Other than using him for my needs, like a PlayStation 5 for little Bobby.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Cash apping me, my needs. So it goes back to, it also can go back to even when you were just talking about dogging the person who's really treating you good. If you don't know what good treatment looks like, you will reject the person bringing the treatment because to you, that's not what you saw the women in your life do.
Yeah.
They didn't have somebody bringing them flowers. You and I talked about this last time. So they didn't have somebody bringing them flowers. So in your mind, when, you know, Jose brings the flowers, you're like, to your girlfriends, oh my God, he's such a cornball. He's bringing me flowers.
Oh,
and
yeah.
And they're like, and then they're like, and the woman may say, you know, he doesn't even have no swag. He doesn't even, and he keeps asking me to go to his church, girl. And so, you know, and then if you have grown up around seeing the women in your life being dogged, they may not have been in abusive relationships, never getting flowers, never having a guy saying, don't worry, I'm going to watch the kids. Go ahead out with your girlfriends to the movies. You will subconsciously think one or two things. I don't want that when I grow up, or you're going to think what a lot of us think. Oh, that's how guys treat women. They barely show up. I mean, to do things. You know what I mean? Like to do things. So what you'll see is a lot of women that people say, oh, but she's so pretty. Oh, but she's so smart. Oh, but she has those, and then you see it in the news all the time. Why was she with him? Oh, what is she doing with him? Well, they're used to whoever they're with the longest. That's the type of treatment they're used to seeing. It's not that she's dumb. It's not that that's regular to her. If he cheats on her on a regular, she saw her mothers and aunties go through that.
Yeah, exactly.
We got to have these conversations ahead of time. We could choose to have these conversations over dinner, nothing heavy. You know what I mean? Like over going out to get some wings and fries. Like, oh, what you think?
Yeah.
And if a dude doesn't answer or a female doesn't answer, or you notice they start to sweat, you start asking, they already showing you they're not going but so deep with you. They already showing you that, even in conversation.
Exactly. I am so glad you said that. I'm so glad you said that. Because a lot of people, they asking God for the sign, and the sign is if they only willing to go but so far in that conversation, they ain't the one.
Yep.
So I'm glad you said that. So hey, look, time is winding down. I might have to do a part 2 with you tonight.
Well, it won't be tonight.
Okay, it won't be tonight. All right.
No.
We're gonna have to hook up and do this again because it's a whole lot of areas that we got to cover, a whole lot of questions that I want to ask. But anyway, how can people follow you on social media and get your books? Thank you.
So people can follow me on Instagram, or Insta, as they say. I'm there under author Nisa with an N, N-I-S-A, just like Lisa, but with an N, Harper. And then on Facebook, I am there under Nisa Harper, just without the author part. My books are all on Amazon. I'm currently in the process of writing 3 other books. They'll be out in like a week. And they focus on self-care, and they focus on unpacking the trauma and wounds, which has to deal with how we treat ourselves, what you and I talked about in the beginning, about the relationship with ourselves dictate everything from business to intimate relationships to even with our children. And if we don't unpack the wounds, then we can't fully live out our purpose that God has ordained us to do, because we weren't supposed to be wounded. It was part of our journey, but it can impact how we show up in the world. So we got to unpack those wounds. So that's what those books are about. I think that's how people can get in touch with me. Yeah, it seems like I wanted to add something, but that's it. That's the best way to reach me. And I thank you again. We have great conversations. Yeah. Thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, hey, no problem. We definitely got to do this because I'm going to entitle this episode Perception. That's what I'm going to call it. Okay. That's what we're going to call this one. We're going to call this one Perception with Nisa Harper.
Okay.
But hey, I just want to say thank you because I'm not going to lie. I enjoy talking with you. I love your view.
Right.
I love your whole world.
Oh, thank you.
And everything.
Thank you.
So, your conviction, your passion, I love it. So we definitely got to do this again because you definitely have a message. You have some insight, and I mean,
thank you.
And I love how you perceive things, and I love your perception on certain issues and views. And thank you for being transparent.
I appreciate it. And I think what it is what we're just in alignment.
Yeah.
And we're open to each other's perception. So therefore you can hear, you know what I mean? You can hear, you can listen. And your other book should be called, for men specifically, The Art of Listening. You kept saying that. Like that's a whole 26-page book for men.
Yeah, no, because I think the thing is that, I'm starting to, there's a difference between hearing and listening. And I see that now. I so much see that now. And I'm like, okay, I wish to God I would have learned this 20 years ago. Seriously. But, everything happens for a reason. And sometimes,
that's right.
You wake up at a particular age for a specific time, for a specific reason. So I just want to say thank you.
Thank you. And we'll talk soon, Leon.
All right. You have a blessed one.
You too.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
All right, guys, that was Nisa Harper. We definitely going to do that again. So with that being said, guys, we are out.
Walk in the truth that makes you free every day. Follow Brother Leon on all social media outlets.